It is approximately 1.5% of GDP, same as it was in 1962. India's trade with China was $87.07 billion in 2018-19, and Indian import from China was 70.32 US billions in 2018-19, while Indian export to China was just US $16.75 billions in the same period. So India's trade deficit with China was 53.57 billion US dollar. The total amount of current and planned Chinese investment in India has crossed 26 billion around dollars, around rupees 1,98,000 crores. The companies which have major Chinese investments includes Big Basket, Byju's, Delivery, Dream11, Flipkart, Hike, Make My Trip, Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Paytm Mall, Policy Bazaar, Quikr, Rivigo, Snapdeal, Swiggy, Udaan, Zomato, etc. Now, the thing is, if we have problems or the conflicts with China, what will be the economic and political impact of or the implication of this conflict? So today, to discuss and find out what are the solutions, we have a very high-powered panel with us. I would like to introduce our first guest. He is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. Bose is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nirmiti Kendra Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also receives prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him man with loads of idea. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji called him inspired civil servant, and our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi called him man of ideas. Dr. Bose has written a book on the Indo-China conflict of 1962. Welcome, Dr. Anand Bose, on our show.
Thank you.
Dr. Bose, you are well aware about the India-China conflict because you have written many articles and a book on this subject. Now, you know if we will have problems which is happening, although the media report says now that China has withdrawn their troops yesterday or day before yesterday. Now, my question or your views, we would like to know rather, the implication of India-China conflict. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, please.
Before I touch upon the complex issue of India-China conflict, I would like to place on record the India-China narrative in the proper perspective. So these are 2 different countries, 2 different cultures. And as M. Taine said, man is a product of his race, milieu, and moment. That differs widely between India and China, even though we are physically neighbors. For instance, in India, we believe in Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. We are not a warmongering nation. We never were a warmongering nation. And there is also a strong belief in India that peace has her victories, no less renowned than war. Another dictum, which is very much, it has seeped into our blood, is since war begins in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men the defenses against it are to be built. Now coming back to China, Confucius has said, never give a sword to a person who cannot dance. It means only a refined mind has a right to wield a weapon. And, you know, Pale-Buck, who got Nobel Prize based on the novel written in the background of the famine in China, she says, when a dog sees his master being attacked, the dog will suddenly bark. If I keep quiet, when God's truth is attacked, I'll be committing a great sin. Now, where does China stand? China always has an imperialistic, though they are claiming to be anti-imperialistic, there is something called Sino-imperialism, which is reflected in the very ethos of that country. Their emperor was very weak at one time. When the British Queen's ambassador, Britain at that time was having an empire where the sun doesn't set. When the ambassador of Britain came and asked the weak Chinese emperor, what can Her Majesty do for your Majesty? The weak emperor said, tremble and obey. This is China. China is insular, and China always is out of tune with the thinking of the nations. When it comes to India, there was a time when we all hailed India, China, bye-bye. And then in 1962, China attacked India. So this is the ethos there. And I think it is Chairman Mao who is on record that even if there is a nuclear holocaust, he said 1/3 of humanity will survive. And in that, majority will be Chinese. So this is the difference in approach between these two countries. Therefore, the conflict between China and India cannot be seen only as a military conflict. Because in a military conflict, a more powerful army with more powerful leaders and more powerful weapons can make a powerful army with powerful leaders and powerful weapons powerless. Therefore, it is not to be confined only as an armed conflict between the forces of two countries. There is much more to it than meets the eye. We have great generals here, and also the former defense secretary is here. Two generals and a defense secretary. I think they are much more equipped than me to comment on this. I would listen to them and will give my views in case need be, if you give me an opportunity later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose, for giving a clear picture about the India and China conflict. And you have mentioned that India believes in peace, Vasundhara Kutumbakam, and you have also quoted the Nobel Prize winner Pearl S. Buck's novel, and you have mentioned that she also mentioned that the condition of the famine at that time in China. And you have also mentioned that they are imperialistic, although they claim that they are not. They are anti-imperialistic, but their views are always like this. And that's why the India position is very different than the China. And we have to see what is to be the outcome of this discussion. Now I would like to go to our next guest. He is Mr. G. Mohan Kumar, IAS. Mr. Kumar is former Defense Secretary. He is a postgraduate in chemistry and has an MBA degree from the UK. He had joined the IAS in 1979 and was allotted to the Odisha cadre. In a long career spanning 38 years, of which 17 years were spent with the government of India. He held many posts. Among them was Managing Director, Industrial Promotion and Investment Corporation of Odisha Limited, 94-95, Chairman, Marine Products Export Development Authority, Kochi. Then he was with the Ministry of Commerce from 2004 to 2009. He was Principal Secretary, Fisheries and Animal Resource, Odisha, 2009-10. He was Additional Secretary and Special Secretary, Ministry of Water Resource, Government of India, 2010 to 2013. He was Secretary, Ministry of Steel, 2013 to 14. He was Secretary, Department of Defense Production, 2014 to 2015. And finally, he became Defense Secretary from 2015 to 2017. Welcome, Mr. G. Mohan Kumar on the show.
Thank you.
Mr. G. Good morning. Mr. Mohan Kumar, you have heard what Dr. Bose has mentioned, that India is a peace-loving country. And China's attitude from the very beginning is although they claim that they are anti-imperialistic, but they are imperialistic. Now, we would like to know the implication of India-China conflict. Mr. G. Mohan Kumar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, for having me on the program. I heard Dr. Anand Bose speaking about the background, China's history and its the settings in which China has been. China is what it is today. Now, the Chinese agenda of the day, the present day, appears to be hard-nosed imperialism, in the sense that, I think once upon a time the communists were ardent opponents of this imperialism. They used to blame every other country as imperialist. But now what they are doing is sheer imperialism, in the sense that they have colonized the whole world. They have gone to the African countries, which are very weak. They have bought their resources. They have virtually colonized them into submission. And they expect the same thing to happen everywhere. And what has happened in the Indo-Pacific, for instance, the South China Sea is a case in point. In spite of the strong presence of the US and other forces in the area, they have managed to have their way in the South China Sea. Maybe, I do not know, this must be their plan to probably annex Taiwan one day, because they can block the South China Sea. And this is unheard of, because China doesn't believe in the rule of law. And in fact, we have all been subscribing to the rule-based world order. China benefited a great deal by the rule-based world order when it became the member of the WTO. It was admitted into WTO. And it also beneficiary of the liberal economics that prevailed in the 90s and the early part of the 21st century, when most of the capitalist nations, they promoted China by having been very liberal with their investments in China. And this is because of these investments and the others, and also because of large-scale intellectual property thefts, that China has been able to become a big power as it is today. Now, the way China treats its neighbors also is a matter of concern, because India is a growing power. India is also matching China in population. In fact, I mean, China's view, population is also a very great asset. And but in the case of China, the demographic dividend is slowly declining. Whereas in India's case, the demographic dividend is going up, and it is going to stay on for a long time. Now, this itself is a matter of concern for China. China has concerns about India's rise, and China will see to it that India does not rise. And they have an all-weather friend in Pakistan. And the collusive relationship between China and Pakistan is enough to see that India does not rise. And then that is the way India has to assess its external threats, because the national security of the country is dependent on various factors. Now, this collusive threat is one of the fundamental threats that we are facing. Now, what has happened in the recent past? Now, today, of course, we know that from the Galwan area, China is slowly withdrawing. But although they are withdrawing, and there is no trust left, because all the trust has evaporated, which was built very painstakingly by our leaders through the last 45 years or so. Now, and China thinks nothing of losing a trust and throwing it to the winds. But India is in a vulnerable position, because we have to face these difficulties, and we have to face China militarily. Now, having the trust having evaporated, now India has no option but to get prepared to face the worst. Now, in the last face-off, we had a peculiar situation of a two-front war. I mean, there were a lot of moves happening across the POK. And one was led to believe that it will lead to some kind of a two-front war. And we do not know what is going to happen again. See, this, now they have withdrawn, but nothing is certain. So this two-front war is not something anything new to the army establishment. I know my co-panelists will bear me out. See, people have always been keeping that in mind while planning. But then the problem is that we have our resources, and see, as far as resources are concerned, China is far ahead of us. China is nearly their GDP is nearly 5 times that of India, and the military is also maybe in number PLA is almost 2 million, and they have also they have rejigged their forces. They have got a theater commands on the western side. I mean, all these things have been done, but we have to take all these things into account. China doesn't consider India as a part to reckon with, in the sense that I have a feeling that China, in its drunk with power, they have a superiority complex, and they feel that India is no match, and that is borne out. And every Chinese, if you ask them, they will be talking about the GDP. We are 5 times your GDP, and we have a great military strength. Now, for India, this is actually the challenge. Now we have to build our economy to match Chinese clout, and at the same time we have to build our military. Building our military has been. I know we are the best fighting force in the world. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Even if we have old equipment, it's with the best. It's a very competent person, and I think we can do wonders. And but that doesn't mean that we'll continue with this, because we need to ramp up our defense forces. We have to equip it substantially. We need to adopt new technology, and we need to be well equipped to counter China. And if this is not done, then I think we will not have any further time. And also, as regards the growth of GDP is concerned, we have a target of, I think it's a modest target of 5 trillion by 2022. I feel that we should at least double that to 10 trillion by 2027 at least, or maybe 2030. Even then, we are going very slowly. What does it call for? It calls for transformational change in our system. And transformational change will mean bringing in a lot of reforms, because reforms have been made. In the recent past, a lot of reforms have come. But, they are not coming as fast as they should be. There should be, the government should be relentlessly pursuing reforms in such a manner that it can create an environment for foreign direct investment to come into the country. So we have improved our score in ease of doing business, but it's not that's not sufficient. Again, we have to go up, and people will have to feel confident that we have stability in policy in the country, so that they can invest safely and go about doing business with India. Similarly, in areas like technology, now China has gone far ahead in technology. They have either by their own effort, or by stealing technology, or by re-engineering, or whatever that is. No, we have not been able to do any such thing, but our research and development is business as usual. Now we need to have a research and development system which is top class in the world. And if it's not, we are not able to do that, we are not going to match with anybody. See, nobody is going to give us technology, especially military technology. See, we will get something, but it will actually, everything will be left to our imagination and innovative spirit to build on that, and then so that we have weapons which can match the best in the world. And nobody can survive by importing arms. We need to have an extensive defense industrial system in this country. Unfortunately, see, we have not been promoting, and this cannot happen unless the private sector is brought in a big way. And we have been very hesitant in bringing in private sector. There's a lot of resistance from various quarters, but especially the public sector undertakings, and also even from the bureaucracy. And I think this should end. And government should have to make a very strong decision to rope in the private sector and extensively build an ecosystem for building a defense industry in the country. Now, once the defense industry is built, we have two types of clout. One is, of course, we have sufficient material to fight any kind of war. And then we don't have to spend too much on it. Import means we are spending too much money and they are very expensive. Now, suppose that you start building them in the country, you will get it much cheaper. And then we also talk about the defense budget. Now, the defense budget has been incrementally increasing. Now, it is, to be fair to the government, it's not possible. It's already 16 or 15% of the total budget every year. Now, it's not possible to endlessly, increase defense budget. No, we need to optimize, or we need to optimize the expenditure in such a manner that the teeth to tail ratio is very good. I mean, it goes up because we have to cut a lot of unnecessary expenditure, the tail and all those things, unnecessary things. Some work is already underway, but we need to go further. And the formulation of the theater command concept is a very good decision in the right direction, because the theater command concept will unify the forces, and jointness will lead to reduction of expenditure and reduction of redundancy. And that's an extremely important step that we need to take. Now, if the defense budget is sufficiently, if you are utilizing it properly and in an efficient manner, so we will be able to build whatever we need within a span of time. But in the short term, defense is, we need to take our own defense. And China is always battle hungry. And what we need to do is to have strategic partnerships with countries like USA and the members of the Quad, Australia and Japan, and maybe the other countries also in the region, so that in the short term, China doesn't take us for granted. But at the same time, if you build a close relationship with US, it doesn't mean that we should embrace them all out, because it will lead to loss of our strategic autonomy. So we have to do a very skillful balancing game of matching all these things, and then giving a massive push to our economic reforms, massive push to defense industry and defense reforms. Defense reforms will also involve the reform of the acquisition process, because we need to have a very detailed acquisition system in the country, because our acquisition system is nothing when compared to that prevailing in the developing countries. In a country like USA, there are 150,000 people working on defense acquisition. In France, there are 30,000 people. In UK, there are 10,000 people. In the Ministry of Defense, there are a handful of people. Lead us anywhere, because decision making is always stymied by this kind of the difficulties in the vigilance and other angles. There's so many difficulties. So we need to have a system which will be able to procure properly. But procurement is not our ultimate aim. Production is our aim. And in order to nurture an industry, we need to nurture the private sector in a proactive manner. And that can be done only if you have an autonomous system of acquisition where these things can be done. So this will call, as I said, countering China is going to be extremely complex, and we need to, and apart from all the things that we have done, like banning their economic, some kind of restraint, economic, some kind of retaliations. No, the retaliations are not going to affect China in a big way in the beginning, but it will affect them. See, when in the long run, because India has a population of say 135 crore people, and then when India rises, China will lose that entire market, because the whole world, the capitalist world, they made all their wealth only by doing business with China. China was one of their major buyers, their major sellers. Everything was happening, cheap goods available. So if in the process, the Western world may decline, India will be on the rise, so China will lose India's big market. So that's the way we should be able to do our economic, train our economic weapons at China. So these are some points which I said I think I should have. I would like to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kumar, for giving such a detailed picture about the Indian defense position. You have mentioned very clearly that the China's intentions are to build up the colonies, and he's taking because investing heavily in the other countries so that the countries surrender in front of them. But in India, we are prepared, although we are our GDP is far less than the Chinese GDP. Our technology is not matching the Chinese technology, but we can do everything if we will do in proper way. And you have mentioned that if the expenditures are cut, the unnecessary expenditures, then we can save so much money, which we can utilize for modernizing our army and others. And you insisted that the production is the main key not the import of the defense equipments, because if we will produce, it will be cheaper, and we have the capability, we have the intelligence, we have everything, except that we should allow the private players to come in picture, and they should put the money, and we should also create an atmosphere when the foreign investments comes here freely. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for giving so much details. Now I would like to go to the General. He's our next guest. He's Major General P. Raj Gopal, AVSM VSM. General Raj Gopal has served in the Indian Army for nearly 40 years and retired as the head of the Territorial Army. He is the paratrooper who has served extensively in the insurgency areas in Northeast and on Indo-Pakistan and Indo-China border. He has served at different levels in Ladakh and has been the general officer commanding Eastern Ladakh and Siachen Glacier, the area presently under discussion. Welcome, General Raj Gopal, on this show. Now, General, you have heard two civilian officer, bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose and Mr. G. Mohan Kumar. And they have given their views that according to Dr. Bose, the war is not the solution. And he has mentioned very clearly that although that China is a imperialistic country, although he claims that he is not, and Mr. G. Mohan Kumar has given the details how the defense of India can match with the China if we will start producing the defense equipments in India. Now, we would like to know from you the implications of India-China conflict. Major General P. Raj Gopal, please.
Thank you, and good morning to the viewers. Heard very illuminating talks by two previous panelists, Dr. Ananda Bose and Kumar. They have covered a wide from political, cultural, and with as the ex-defense secretary as spectrum. Let me first put out one aspect which I would like to highlight. While economy, also fully agree with the view that for a country like ours, economy is most important. And if we are a developing country, the economics is absolutely vital. But what I would like to point out, this thing is, a war will pull us back many, many years. Our economy itself, we are planning, will go for a complete 6 if we have to face a war. So therefore, we have to balance our military preparedness with the economy. We want to be a world economic power, we want to bring up our people, then we have to think of the military muscle. There is no country which can become an economic power without military muscle. We have seen it, and repeatedly we are seeing it now. So that's the first point so we have to make a fine balance. I do agree that we do not have, resources are not unlimited, but we have to keep this in view. Having said this, let's concentrate on the military aspect of it, just to give an to my points which I want to highlight. The last, just if we look at the last, let me start by saying that there has been good news that the latest talks between the NSA and the Foreign Minister of China has brought some good results, and there is talk of and some de-escalation, as I'm about a kilometer back. They are supposed to have moved back, and similarly in the hot spring area, there is no movement in the other areas. Actually, bring out there is a thing which is going around in the social media, which says 3 things. This is a newspaper item of July 1962. It gives 3 points that Chinese soldiers have withdrawn from the Galwan Valley. This is of July 1962, have withdrawn from the Galwan Valley. And the second point they have highlighted is the bravery of the Indian soldiers have this on. And the third thing is that the Delhi's warning has worked. This happened in July 62. This is a newspaper cutting. I'm just quoting this as a reference to see how much we can trust China. We are in somewhat the same position. They have vacated, and so there is the trust deficit. There's a trust deficit as far as China is concerned. We have to keep in mind. I just to update on this. And coming now to the, if you look at the major landmarks which have taken place in the last 2 months, sometime in the first week of May, the Chinese in the PLA in the garb of routine exercise moved into various areas, the disputed areas. Now the Chinese, not going into it in detail, the line of actual control, there are two perceptions of the border. There is one is our perception of the border and the Chinese perception of the border. The line which both sides continue to, that is of the agreements of 93, 2015, that both sides will patrol in these areas, but there will be no physical occupation of this area. So this, what happened in May 6th is, this time the Chinese or the PLA came in large numbers. This was different from the previous such standoffs which have taken place, because after 1962, there's been really no major issue as far as Eastern Ladakh is concerned. In fact, no bullet has been in 1975 in this area. And incidents have taken place only in 2012, 2013, and 2017. Also been settled through talks, but it took a longer time, maybe 90 days to settle the dispute. All the previous disputes, whatever in my time also, there used to be a number of standoffs which used to take place, but that used to get settled in 2 days, 3 days, or maximum 4 or 5 days and higher. But this time, the major difference is that they came in such large numbers. They were not patrolling in such large numbers. It was a different approach and a different aim they had. They came in large numbers, occupied the disputed areas, and they came in more than one area. This also is uncommon because mostly whenever the standoffs take place, it takes place at a specific area. This time it came over a distance of over 1,000 kilometers. If you see from Galwan Valley down to the Pangong Tso and further to Naupula in the India.
I think we have lost you,
Yeah.
General.
Oh.
Can you just General, can you hear us? No, I think we have lost you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now we can. Yes.
So
Continue. Yes, please continue.
This is trying to say that this time when they came in, it was different. After that, the talks took place initially at a lower level, then at Lieutenant General levels. 3 series of discussions have taken place. Firstly on 6th June, then on June, and on 30th June. These military talks given any substantial results. So it gives an impression that that the Chinese have come there to stay for a longer, cannot go easily. Even by the present method of 1 kilometer, if they are withdrawn, there are many kilometers. There's just a small step. There are many steps in Galwan Valley itself. What about other areas? That Depsang plains, there is no indication. There is no indication of Pangong Tso. So the fact is that the problem still remains, and if it is in the process in which talks at going to be very long time. Are we ready for that? Is something which we have to consider, because we decide on both the borders. So are we ready for a very long discussion? And what and with the present this thing and the method in which, what I would feel is that there is a need to speak the negotiations. But this has to be on multiple level. On the military level also, we'll have maybe unoccupied areas. You need to give a negotiating point. Like presently, the problem is they have the advantage. They are sitting there and we are there, but there is no negotiation point. And what they have mentioned is that, India is also to come halfway. Then only there are, issues even in the latest talks, what Global Times has put out. One is that we have to meet the halfway. So what do they mean by halfway? Is it that we have to withdraw? Do we withdraw? We are not anywhere in the disputed areas. There are issues in this, and they're going to take considerable time before these issues get resolved. So we need to be alert. Firstly, there is no way of letting down our guard, and this has to continue. It is not that this statement has been made and we sit quiet. Both diplomatically, militarily, and trade, whatever we have done so far, we have done a few things, but we need to accelerate, to do more. We have to tell China that we mean business. They are not interested. If you are a big country, the background has been amped about their culture and ethos by Dr. Bose. I mean, that's the way they are. So if you are weak, they will treat you like that. That is one aspect which we have to consider. The second main aspect which I want to cover in brief is, today we are in a very difficult situation because China and Pakistan are in it together. There is a collusion. If you see the pattern of their intrusion, it is more towards the north. Where they have concentrated is in Galwan Valley, Depsang Plain. These areas are strategically important for both India and China. If we have to carry out any operations towards Aksai Chin, DBO becomes critical. If DBO is cut off, or if that road off, problems in. As far as a link,
General, your net is giving problems, so we will come to you again. And now we will. Okay, thank you very much, General, for giving a detailed of the situation there, because you were there and you have seen the situation very closely, and you have mentioned very clearly that India has to keep themselves alert, and we cannot just take their words that they are withdrawing, so we will just become this thing. We have to be always alert, and we should do diplomatically. We should be alert with the military and as well as the trade. In all the fields, we have to negotiate with the Chinese, and we have to see, we have to tell them that we are not weak. Now I would like to go to our next guest. He is Lieutenant General V.K. Chaturvedi, PVSM, AVSM, SM. Lieutenant General Chaturvedi is an alumni of National Defense Academy and Indian Military Academy. He was commissioned into the Regiment of Artillery on 13 June 1971. Immediately on commissioning and after undergoing a curtailed young officers course, he was posted to 99 Field Regiment in the Eastern Sector. He fought the 1971 Indo-Pak War and was awarded the Sena Medal for gallantry. He commanded 99 Field Regiment during Operation Rakshak in J&K and Artillery Brigade in Strike Corps during Operation Parakram in deserts. He accomplished himself well on all important courses to include long gunnery course, Defense Service Staff College, Senior Command Course, Higher Defense Management Course, and the most prestigious National Defense College course. He has held all the coveted staff and command assignment, which includes GSO-2, General Staff Officers Grade 2 at Military Operations Directorate, Colonel Administration of a Division in the Deserts, Directors at Weapons and Equipments Directorate in Army Headquarters, Brigadier Administration of the largest corps of the Army in J&K, Additional Director General Operation and Training of Artillery, where he spearheaded the artillery modernization. He was there after the Deputy Commandant and Chief Instructor of the School of Artillery, and finally was the Director General Manpower Planning and Personal Service at Army Headquarters. The officer was awarded the Param Vishisht Seva Medal PVSM in 2011 for distinguished services of highest order by the President of India. He was also awarded the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal AVSM for distinguished services of the exceptional order by the President of India in 2007 and the Sena Medal Gallantry during the 1971 war. He was also given commendation by the Chief of Army Staff and Army Commander on 2 occasions. He is a Master of Philosophy MPhil from Madras University in Strategic Studies and International Affairs, Master of Science from Madras University in Defense Studies, and Master of Management Studies from Osmania University. The officer also holds a postgraduate diploma in business management from Pune University. Post-retirement, the general was advisor defense banking with the State Bank of India and SBI Life for 5 years. Presently, the general is consultant in defense matter and guest lecturer at a premium institute in the country. Welcome, Lieutenant General Vishnukant Chaturvedi to our show. General Chaturvedi, you heard what your earlier panelists, Dr. Bose, Mr. G. Mohan Kumar, and Major General Raj Gopal has spoken. And they were of view that we cannot trust China. China is not trustworthy. And they says that although right now we are not at par with the China because their GDP is far more than us, the technology wise they are ahead of us, but we have the willpower, we have the power, our people are very much dedicated, and we can, if required, we are ready to win fight. But whether the fight is the war is the solution, or because we are having so much trade with them and we are having so much and right now at present we are also fighting with COVID, although China is also fighting COVID, but what they claims, because we cannot vouch for their media, but what their media claims that they have controlled the COVID, but we can't vouch for that. But in India, we are still fighting the COVID. So in that present scenario, your views, implications of India-China conflict by Lieutenant General Vishnukant Chaturvedi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, for inviting me to this very, very important discussion. And I'm so happy that you have called some very eminent people, Mr. Bose, Mohan Kumar, General Rajagopal. They are definitely experts on this issue. And we heard some very good views from Mr. Anand Bose, Mohan Kumar, and General Rajagopal. I totally agree with them. China is a country which cannot be trusted. And this is not from today, it is from times immemorial. Mr. Bose had brought out that difference in the two cultures. I'll go also in ideology. You take the ideology of all Indians. We have Vasudev Kutumbakam, welfare of everybody. We look after मानवता के भलाई के लिए हम काम करते हैं, सबके भले के लिए हम एक दूसरे के साथ एक दूसरे में सहयोग करते हैं. But at the same time, in case of China, it is I, me, and myself. You also talked about in your opening comment that they believe in, even if there is a nuclear holocaust, 1/3 of Chinese will survive. So that itself talks about their mentality. And that's our reality. We have them on our northern borders. We have to manage it. we can't choose our neighbors or now change our neighbors. These are the geopolitical realities of the ground situation. We have to therefore learn to manage China. Basically, we have been little soft, I'll say, from the time of our independence. We almost became independent at the similar time. There was hardly any difference. Where China has gone, where we are. But what we have gained is something which China can never gain. We have a standing on ethical, moral, and as a responsible nation in the Committee of Committee of Nations in the world, whereas the same thing is not. They may have gone. They may be 4.5 to 5 times more our GDP, but they cannot. Their standing is not at par with India. Today, if any country has a option of having relations between the two, they will definitely always choose India. You can count Pakistan, Iran, and North Korea. You can. They are a different countries. They also definitely lack ethics and morality. But what we need to do, China respects strength. The moment you show your weakness, moment you try to appease the Chinese, they take it that everything is for grab. And we can, if you want me to compare with the old time Jamidari system, where the Jamidar used to, when he used to give a little loan to a poor man in his village or something, he will always get his house written in his name or the land written in his name and continue to give loan, and at the end of it, the land and house will ultimately become his. This is what is that in the, if you can compare it at the very lower level for understanding, this is what China is doing at the international level. And this is extremely sad. Expansionist designs they have, what our Prime Minister has spoken in Ladakh that day is absolutely true. Vistarwad is their total design. Wherever they find a little chance, they grab that land. When they have a strong opposition, they fall back. This is land mafias or land grabbers, you can say. That is their ideology. What we need to do is prepare ourselves for such eventuality, improve our surveillance and intelligence system along the borders, also ensure that our armed forces are modernized, they are strong, and we may not have 2 million army, but our 1.3 million army is adequate to safeguard our territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country. I have no doubt in my mind the man behind the weapon has a major role to play which China lacks. Our people are willing to sacrifice for the country. जो देश का प्रेम जो हमारे जवानों में जो जिस जुनून से भरा हुआ है, जो जज्बा हमारे देश के लिए हमारे सैनिकों में है, अद्वितीय है, अतुलनीय है. China can never be anywhere close to us, and that is what we all saw on 15-16 June night at Galwan, where they brought so many people, and ultimately, without using the firearms, which was as per the protocol, we were following all the treaties which we had signed, because we respect what we do. It's in our blood that once we have an agreement, we follow it. We do not violate it. They were trying to follow it, but they violated the spirit of the those agreements. Those peace and tranquility agreements they did not use, but they came prepared with all types of nails, they barbed wire and all. These are unethical practices in military warfare. You never indulge in these things. You fight like a soldier, which they degraded themselves, and that's why they are not known as a good professional army, the world over. And I will like to place on record that China has never, in a military conflict, been successful. You take anywhere, 62 is an aberration, when India was just trying to modernize its armed forces and slightly neglected the armed forces in the beginning after independence, and that was the result. But as individual soldiers, the courage, the sacrifice displayed by each and every soldier, even in 1962, is something to be emulated by the world. In 67, we gave them back both in Nathula and Chola. So was in Wangdong, Sumdrongchu in 86, when they tried to occupy a piece of land in our part of the country. We mobilized troops and they had to go back. Doklam, the same thing about 2 years back has happened. These are things which will continue to happen unless we show our strong resolve. What we did in the strategy followed in Ladakh was something exceptionally good. We stood our ground militarily, we stood our ground diplomatically, and politically we sent very, very strong signals. In case of any conflict, India has to stand on its own feet. If we think that somebody else will fight our war, we are in for a major shock, and we should not accept, because the interests of the nations remain permanent. The friendship and all may change. Today, if we have good relations with USA, it's not a guarantee that in every eventuality and every situation they will be with us. So we have to stand on our feet. We have to fight our own battle. We have to ensure that the armed forces are strong, modernized. One more point I would like to say, that a strong armed forces are not meant for fighting war. They are meant to prevent war. They are a guarantee for peace. If you have a strong armed forces, no country will dare bring conflict in your neighborhood. Peace will be ensured, and there will be development, there will be economic development, there will be political stability, everything will be good. So one must understand, not from now, it's from times immemorial. From Chanakya's time, you can see that whichever nation, wherever you had a strong armed forces willing to sacrifice for the nation, you had stability, you had peace. Then a little point on the future. In future, even now, the issue in Ladakh is not yet over. What Rajgopal was also saying, and other eminent speakers have also brought out, that we need to be very, very alert. हमको सचेत रहना पड़ेगा. We have to see that everything what they have promised, they are doing it on ground. We have to dictate terms to them. We cannot accept their saying that we have moved back. It is not a question of 50-50, because we never intruded. India was inside its own place. Now where do we go? They want us to go 50-50. It is China which has to go into their own side of line of actual control, and perception is all hogwash. Of course, a little bit of 50 meters, 100 meters can happen, but perception cannot be 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers difference. The maps are adequately marked, but there is a need now to exchange maps, authenticate the maps, and resolve the boundary dispute at the earliest. It is by design that China does not want to resolve the boundary dispute with India. It is lingering on. We are wanting the maps to be authenticated and map to be exchanged. They don't do it. The same McMahon line in Myanmar is acceptable to China. The same McMahon line in India is not acceptable. It's something which speaks about their intentions. It speaks about, I'll say, neighborhood dealings. They do not deal honestly. They have always some incorrect intentions, and therefore, to deal with China, we have to be extremely, extremely careful. We have to, at every point, ensure that we do not appease If China says that you don't construct this road from this direction, we should do it. What we have to do it in our area, this side of line of actual control, we must enforce that what we want to do in national interest, from the national strategic interest, we will do it. Let not anybody dictate terms to us. We will do what we want to do for the best of our nation, our country. We have done it in the past, one or two instances, and that is the reason why China today thinks that India is a weakling, and therefore it has been doing all these types of things. Their intentions are not good. They want to, in fact, Gwadar port is almost a Chinese area now today. They want to get close to the lines of communications, because through the South China Sea, they have a problem. They want to get closer to Iran, Middle East, Africa, Europe. That is for their economic development and business point of view. If they want some place, some transit point and all, that's a different issue. But those can be discussed at the political level, diplomatic level. But they cannot, by military actions, try and indulge in this type of activity, which is abhorrable, it is uncalled for, and it has to be condemned by every responsible nation of the world.
Okay,
we need to, one more thing, just a small thing.
Yeah.
I just say some fault lines, we must now explore those fault lines in China. Tibet is one fault line. Their economy is also a fault line, because they cannot afford to lose the exports and all, because everything is based, the complete manufacturing that needs to be used by others. So these things and many others, we must exploit those fault lines. Xinjiang is also one of the fault line, I'll say. They have tried to, this was never their part of the country. Mongolia was never a part of their country. Some other, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, Senkaku Island, anywhere you see, China wants to, they are not satisfied. Santosh nahi hai unko. They don't want to live in peace. They only want to spread their ideologies across the world. We need to counter it, and we have to be strong to counter it. Thank you very much. It's been lovely to hear to all the eminent speakers.
Thank you very much, General Chaturvedi, for giving so forcefully your point of view that Indian Army is not a weakling. We are very strong. Even we are 1.3 million, but we are far better than anyone else, because we have the jazba to sacrifice. We can do anything if we have to save our sovereignty of the nation. And you have given the details how the Chinese, they always have the grabbing attitude. You have compared with the Jamidar, and you have said that they are like the land mafia. So we should not come under their threat, and we must be alert, be prepared, and we should not leave any inch of our land to them. Thank you very much, General Chaturvedi, for giving such a bold and forceful suggestions and ideas and your views on this. Now I would like to go to Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Dr. Bose, you have heard everyone. Now again the condition today in India is, because we have so much investment in many of the leading most companies, startups in India. The question to you is, will the economic decoupling with the China delays India's own growth?
First of all, I also share the confidence which both the generals have really given us. See, General Chaturvedi said, the man behind the weapon makes a difference. If that is what makes a difference, India will win anywhere, because the man behind the weapon in India are the best of soldiers the world has ever seen. As Rajgopal said, unless there is clear show of force, China is not going to budge. These are the two strong statements from which I would like to take off. We said about the quality of China, where nobody can trust them. There is a popular Chinese folklore one day the scorpion came and asked the alligator, the crocodile, will you please help me in crossing this turbulent river? Because I cannot swim across that. You can swim across it. Can you help me? The crocodile said, yes, I can help you. No harm, you sit on me. I will ferry you across. But the problem is, you will sting. If you sting me, which means both of us will die. And the scorpion says, how can it be? I know it very well. I won't sting because then both of us will die. But in the middle of the turbulent river, the crocodile got the sting. Then it asked the scorpion, you knew both of us will die. You promised that you will not sting me. Why this? What can I do? That's my nature. That's my nature. That is China. That is what both the journalists have highlighted. And also the defense secretary also said. You see, we have to be armed very strongly against them. Another national discussion on this, in which General Chaturvedi was also there. I think it was General Jaiswal who said about the four-pronged strategy in containing or facing China. They should be faced militarily, economically, politically, diplomatically. And only if all the other three are strong, they will agree for a diplomatic solution. Therefore, he was saying, armed to the hilt, demonstrate our strength in the army, the navy, the air force. Well, if we can have allies like America or Israel or Japan or Russia, of course, Russia has always been with us. Do it. Then if we sit down for discussion, they will agree. Now, your specific question about the economic aspect of this. See, the Sorbonne University has conducted a research into the conflicts in the 20th century. They said where there is strong commercial interest, there is less chance of a war. So commercial interests are a balancing factor. See, it is true that some slogans have been raised. Boycott the entire Chinese products. It appeals to our senses, especially when they charge a situation like this. But you see, there are $22 billion China has invested in India. Who runs those factories here? Indians. And secondly, if we totally ban them, of course, you may have to do it as a situation of a war. But this is something which has to be tackled very, very diplomatically. There should be a selective approach to this. Already, India has identified 500 items which can be produced in India, which can replace the Chinese goods. But if we totally cut off commerce with them, of course, in a time of war, we may have to. That does not make, does not make economic sense, does not make political sense either. So then, second aspect of the economic, why China is scared of India? Because of economic reasons. See, they have been expanding to the whole world as the most, the country which has the best marketing techniques. Till recently, our biggest trade partner was China. It is only very recently that America has taken over that position. And we have a trade deficit with them. 11.7% of our imports are from China, but the exports do not match it. Therefore, that is something which is very tricky, which has to be dealt with very, very cautiously. And secondly, there is a saying that where there is commerce, there is less chance of war. Now, why the other aspect of the economic aspect of this? See, China has got an agreement for the use of the Oman port. India, when Narendra Modi ji went there, we also got the right, even for military purposes. China has got the right to use the Sri Lankan port. More important is the China-Pakistan economic corridor. The China-Pakistan economic corridor passes through POK, Pak-occupied Kashmir. Amit Shah is on record. POK is part of India, and it will certainly merge with India. So naturally, if that happens, their commercial dream will be shattered. And India is also emerging as a country, an economic superpower. So naturally, there are economic reasons for China to put India in its place. But one thing is there. You heard our general speak. There is a difference between the mental attitude of the army men or the military personnel of China and India. In China, there is only one child. You have can have only one child, and that child is forcibly inducted in the army. See, their blood doesn't boil like the blood of the Indian soldier, the Indian tricolor. See, the Indian soldier says, I will uphold the tricolor. Either it will flutter in my hand or I will come back wrapped in the tricolor. In the National Defense Academy, in the Indian Military Academy, I'm told the cadets are taught to fight, not flight. See, even before going to the battlefield, a soldier, an Indian soldier, has sacrificed his life. He has dedicated his life. Such is the power behind the gun. When there is power behind the gun, and it is also, and the leadership is very important. You see, earlier in '62, our military leader, General Timaya, one of the most revered generals, he was not consulted. It is the politicians who took the decision. But now, the generals are given a free hand because they know how to lead the war. That freedom is given to them. And for that, kudos to the present government, particularly the Prime Minister. Now, the world will see an army of sheep led by a lion is more important, more effective than an army of lions led by a sheep. That is the difference. And now, the political problems in China. See, even though Xi Jinping has anointed him as a permanent ruler, as something which was there only for Mao and Deng Xiaoping. Now he is the permanent ruler. He can rule for any so far as he exists. But there are dissenting voices. We all know that what happened in Wuhan. The doctor, the revered doctor, Li Wenliang, for telling the world that COVID exists, he was liquidated. This has caused a lot of trouble. There are so many vociferous detractors of Xi now. Therefore, if, as the general said, if we take a strong stand, then only China will come down. China will come down, there is no doubt about that. And in case of an armed conflict, now in the present context, of course, Mohan Kumar is there. He knows very well the equation among countries in a military way. America, Russia, Japan, Israel, then the Euratom countries will be on one side. Who will be with Pakistan? Who will be China? Only Pakistan, of course, North Korea. Then the disgruntled Marxists of India. That will be with them. Therefore, I think this is going to be an unequal battle in favor of India. I think, therefore, there is no need for India to worry about anything. We hear the confident statements made by the generals who are really seen the war, who have led the war. We are not for war, certainly. Vasudhaiva Kudambakam, Om Shanti, Shanti Shanti. But in case the war is imposed upon us, we will put the war hunger of the enemy in the coffin, and the last nail will be drawn deep into it. That is the strength of our army. Kudos to the Indian military. Kudos to the Jawans. Kudos to the soldiers. They will protect us. That is a certainty. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. Kudos to our Jawans. They will protect all of us. The way you have replied about the economic question, you said, yes, economy is there. And you have also said when there is an economy thing, where is the transaction, where is the money involved, there is no war. But China, as you have also compared the China with a Scorpio, and you said that he can stung any time. His nature is like that. And you said that we are on a very, very strong foot because we are having very good allies with us. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Mohan Kumar. You have heard what Dr. Bose has mentioned. And now I would like to know from you, will the government sign free trade agreements with Western countries, diversify away from China? Because we are having so many agreements with China, whether it's for 5G and for other things. and they are supplying many raw materials for our pharmaceutical companies also. Although in last 3-4 months, India has become the second biggest, largest manufacturers of PPP equipment. So Indian industry is also not less like our army people. When they are strong, the business community is also strongly with them, with the country. So do you think now this is the right time that the government of India should try to change their instance and try to sign more agreements with the Western countries and diversify away from China? Mr. G. Mohan Kumar, please.
Yes, I think what you have raised is a very relevant point, because now I want to emphasize the point that without economic development, we will not be able to counter China, and our economic development has to be accelerated. Now, we also need to decouple from China, because China is also a dangerous place where if you have too much of a relationship and the lack of trust, we never know whether we can really depend on China. They will suddenly create, and it will be it will be a threat to our national security. Because if you have this kind of unstable relationships, and then you base your entire your bets on a country like China, it will be a positive threat to our national security. So therefore, what India should do is, see, in order to develop export-oriented economy is absolutely essential, because it's a globalized world, and you need to have competitiveness, and you need to have a large export network built within the country. And in order to do that, without having China, see, we need to build bridges with other countries, our developed countries, which you can buy our products, which you can also import good products from them. But the main problem here is, as always, these free trade relations, free trade is a question of, balancing our economic needs with social imperatives. So we always have a problem. See, like, why did the Doha round fail? The Doha round failed mainly because, we were not able to make agriculture. Agriculture and other things, they say they want free market to be open for agriculture, and the US products, Western countries, their products have to come to India, and then that would have meant a lot of for our farmers. So this is something which we have, because in the globalized environment, there is a lot of suffering which the community undergoes. I think this is, if I can refer to Raghuram Rajan's book, The Three Pillars. See, it mentioned very clearly, the third pillar is actually the society. The society has to be taken care of. Without support of the society, we will not be able to move forward. So in India, you see, now we have started modernizing our agriculture. Now, how far we will go? Because I think one of our major problems in agriculture is that, see, it is in the hands of small and marginal farmers. The 50% or more than 50 or 60 or maybe 70% of our holdings are small. And then they eke out a life with agriculture. And agriculture is subsistence farming. Now, if a large number of products come into the country and then they are affected, it's going to be a serious problem for these people, because we care for the poor. No, it's not a country like China where you do not care for what the laborers do, what do the poor do. But here is a country, where we have a lot of feelings for the poor. Now, the basic issue is, how far can we make India's agriculture competitive vis-a-vis the rest of the world? Because we have to move a large part of our agricultural, the population that is based on agriculture to non-agricultural areas. That means will mean skill development. Then you have to provide labor-intensive industries elsewhere. So this is part of our reform process. See, we need to make our labor reforms very flexible, labor laws very flexible, so that we can attract industries. So we have the time and space to absorb the people from the agricultural sector. Now, once the agricultural sector becomes, it attains economies of scale, and it becomes it's able to withstand competition from abroad, then I think we'll be able to do it. But in the meanwhile, if the countries are willing to do it, we cannot nurture a system of protectionism. See, sometimes we are raising barriers, saying that okay, it will help make in India. The point is that when barriers are there, they come to stay forever. And the barriers are always dependent on for protectionism. And if you remove the barriers, so removing barriers, in 1990, what happened was when the barriers were removed, India industry became highly competitive. The automobile industry, many other industries became highly competitive, and they were able to integrate with the global value chain. But if we are not able to do that by protectionism, see, we say we'll make in India, but what will it make in India? So we say that, okay, our consumers will consume everything. So can we give our consumers a substandard product when excellent products are available elsewhere? So we have to actually nurture excellence. So protectionism also has no meaning unless we really have excellence. Because in case you have to compete with the rest of the world, we will not be able to manage. So and it's in a globalized environment, it's also very difficult to do without the rest of the world, because we have to integrate ourselves with the global value chain, and so that the markets expand and we have sufficient scope. And even for our expansion of our economy, we require the entire world to trade with. So it's a very, very difficult question to answer, because it's very desirable that we have some kind of a relationship, FTAs with some countries. But those FTAs should be modulated in such a manner that it doesn't bring misery to the millions of people. That's something which I would like to emphasize. But by having a free trade agreement, we can become world class. Our products will be competing with the rest of the world. Then there will be large investments coming into this country, and we also will be able to manage without China. That's very important. So in terms of national security, that's very ideal, but then with conditions and with riders.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohan Kumar, for giving the detailed reply. And you said, yes, we have to shift gradually, but we have to keep the mind in our mind about the welfare of the poor, and you said because the agriculture is such a thing, we have to make it such that we can be of the world-class agriculture product. And you said that, yes, for the security reasons and for others, we have to shift, but we have to keep everything strategically we have to do. Now I would like to go to Major General P. Rajgopal. General Rajgopal, after the border clash, will defense spending and modernization become a greater priority in the coming years?
You're absolutely right. I mean, there is no other way. I was just highlighting when I was talking in my last that we have now to be ready for front. There is no way out. I mean, we may try to move away from the subject, but there is a huge Chinese, even economic interest now in Chinese, the Group invested billions there. The interest also of China in this area. So we have now to be, very clear that this is the future for us in the near future. We have to fight a two-front war. We have prepared a two-front war. While I really feel proud when I see the confidence everybody has in the Indian Army, being a part of it, I feel extremely, and every word of that is true. However, there is a limit to that, and I must emphasize that a time has come to the current crisis. We have for an SOS buying of nearly 40,000 crores, I think, which will itself take 3 years to materialize. Is this what I mean? Or we need to have a long-term plan. We have to build up our military strength. They will do everything. Of course, we have, as there's a famous what General Malik said before the Kargil war, but the fact remains, and technology is advancing. Unless we modernize our forces, your artillery, your helicopters, submarines, almost everything needs modernization. We have to catch it up to the strength. A time has come to have a relook, I feel, from whatever eminent Dr. Bose and Dr. Mohan Kumar has said. You see, the fact is that we need to have a relook at the entire China policy, its facets, whether it is we need to look at it long. We cannot now, move away from this aspect. As far as trade is concerned, very valid points have been brought out. But the fact of the matter is, we are thinking of building with the hope that will build our relationship. But my point is that China will never let you do that. We might as well be prepared for that China is your adversary and it will continue to keep you down. So we need to look at the trade aspect very critically. Nobody is saying to ban everything. That is not possible near future. But we can definitely see what are our core areas, whether it is telecommunication, precision engineering, your pharma products, these we are dependent on China. These things have to be, our dependence on China has to be over time. The trade balance has to be correct.
Okay.
There's no other way. I mean, unless we look at it long, militarily, economic, diplomatic also, I think time has come for a change of our stand. We cannot sit quiet. Whether it is Pakistan or China, they are against you, and we fight diplomatic front across all forums, whether it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, General Rajgopal. Your net is giving problem. So, but you have made your point very, very clearly that yes, this is the time that we should modernize our armed forces. And you have said that we have to be very, very careful. We cannot ban everything, but we have to deal in such a way, like whether it's diplomatically, militarily, or politically, we have to deal, and we have to see to it that we should not bow down in front of these two enemies, and you namely says that by China and Pakistan. Now my question to General Chaturvedi is, as General Rajgopal has mentioned about two enemies. Now, is India prepared for a two-front war with China and Pakistan in the future?
That's a very important question, and we have been discussing about it for now almost more than 20 years. I totally agree with General Rajgopal when he says that we must accept the realities. We have been always at the diplomatic level slightly shy of calling China as our enemy or as an adversary. We have always been saying that Pakistan is our enemy. They are engaged in cowardly acts against us, and they always try to only bring harm to our country. But acknowledging China was always a little, we were talking about behind the curtains, but not in open. Today the time has come when we must accept it. We must talk about it. We must be very, very public and vocal about it, that China is not your friend. We can at least say this much, that they are not going to stand by you when you need some help. They are always going to be, because their interest conflict. China wants to be a soul. Their ideology is that only me and myself and I. So we cannot be together. We are prepared. If they want to cooperate, they want to collaborate. Even competition is okay, because it improves the, basically the technologies, improve the products. But conflict, their aim is through conflict or show of force, try and keep the disputes alive. They are not interested in solving the disputes, and therefore there is a need that we should be prepared for a two-front war. We are. Let me be, Mr. Goyal, quite confident that if it comes to shove, we will defend our territorial integrity against both against China as well as against Pakistan. Pakistan is hardly today, we should just ignore it. We should only be thinking that yes, there is something a little irritant on our western border, but we must prepare ourselves against the northern borders. Pakistan, if it was strong enough, it would have never indulged in the low-cost options of spreading terrorism in J&K. These things, they are cowardly act. They are not soldierly act. And therefore, prepare for China, Pakistan will always be dealt with. We need to improve. We need to improve our Air Force. We need to improve our Navy. We need to improve our armed forces. Basically, firepower. Firepower, when you talk about, is the attack helicopters, the helicopters, the logistics part of it, the tanks, the artillery guns, missiles, rockets, and also the infantry soldier. Because infantry soldier is the one, he needs to have the most modern equipment when he goes into battle. He goes into battle along with, of course, artillery representatives and engineers representatives, but they are the people who they have to be equipped with the best in the world. We are capable. Today we have proved to the world that we are fighting at the highest battlefield of the world in Siachen. And not for a few years, we are doing it for last almost today. If you count 36 years, we have been there 24/7, all 365 days in a year. It is at the 24,000 feet, minus 40, minus 45 degrees temperature. But we have proved, we have not let anybody take an inch in that area. So, and even technology-wise, we are capable. You see our Indians having done IITs and from various good engineering colleges in India, they are doing the best in the world. They are heading they are CEOs of the best companies of the world. If the potential is there, I am sure Atmanirbhar Bharat is going to be a reality. It is not going to be a sapna. It will be a sachai hogi, or we will produce everything within our own country. You take 98, when we had the Pokhran explosion, nuclear explosion, we came under sanction for a lot of countries. We did not have the cryogenic engines. And Dr. Kalam, that time he was scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri, I have heard him saying.
I think General Chaturvedi, we have lost you the online, but you have made a very, very strong point, and you have mentioned very clearly that we are ready. We have no problem to face the two-front war also. And you have also mentioned that the Pakistan is, he always do the cowardly act. That's why he's spreading the terrorism in India. Although, in my opinion, even the Chinese, like General Rajgopal has also mentioned, that they are also a coward, because the way they acted in our front was a cowardly and inhuman and not a soldier's act, what they have done. So, and you have also said that Atmanirbhar jo hai wo sakar hoga, wo koi sapna nahi rahega. So thank you very much, General Chaturvedi, for giving your very such strong opinion. Now, as our format says in the last, Dr. Bose, any suggestions you would like to give to the government and advice to the public at large? Dr. Bose, please.
I think, like we know, there is no vaccine against COVID. There is no vaccine against China also. We have learned to live with it. Because if serious things can be put across in a lighter vein, in the Chinatown in Calcutta, there was one Mr. Jacob. His wife got triplets in the first delivery itself. So Jacob tells the local priest in the church, I have got 3 children, you please give them the proper, appropriate names. The old priest said, the first one is Peter. Second one is Repeater. Third one is Jia Ching Chai. Jacob said, what name is that? Isn't it a Chinese name? The old priest said, don't you know? Every third child born in this world is a Chinese. Therefore, we have to live with China. And China has a feeling, a kind of a perennial problem with them. See, in their mythology, there is a goddess who travels on broom, like rolling brooms, you know. This goddess, once it turns the broom to this side, the seasons will change. Turn it to that side, the sea will change its course. Now, China still feels by turning the broom they have, they can even change the axis of the earth. That's a kind of perennial congenital megalomania which leads that country. Therefore, we have to live with them. And how to live with them? The generals have clearly given the indication. Only by strength. Only a strong neighbor can keep them in check. The China has this problem. Even 14 countries, they have got borders. Even friendly countries. See, North Korea. 2 rivers divide China and North Korea. Still, every year, China raises a border issue there. How to draw the line at exactly the middle of the river. Then they will say 2 islands belong to us, or something or the other. And also with other countries, they have this problem of keeping always neighbors on tenterhooks. There is no ethics in that. Or if there is an ethics, that's the Chinese ethics, which is different from what we are used to. Therefore, China has to be seen. And as General Chaturvedi said, you know, no kind of platitudes with China. China has been and is an enemy. We have to face China as we face an enemy. But even in facing enemies, we have certain traditions in our culture. We are not the aggressor. But we will not allow anybody to step into our land. You know, this again is part of our traditional culture. Because Bhishma in the Sharashaya tells Yudhishthira, the first duty of the king is to protect the borders. And Bhishma said, if the borders are attacked, trespassed into, you should see it as a disrobing of your own mother and take action. I think strength alone will deter China. Therefore, I think a strong India will certainly be able to keep China in check. And as Mr. Mohan Kumar said, and generals also said, we should modernize. We should have the sea. We said the man behind the weapon makes the difference. But the weapon also should be modern, but the weapon should be effective. I think we are not a belligerent country, but we should be prepared. If a war is imposed on us, we will fight to the finish. Therefore, we should keep the country, society, the army, well-oiled and fighting fit. I think that alone. And secondly, the timing. See, now, because of COVID, which again came from China, when the whole world is focused on fighting the COVID, see, they have chosen this time to trespass into India and kill our soldiers. This is also an inborn trait in them. 62 war. In 62, USSR and America were almost come to a flashpoint or a nuclear war because Russia installed nuclear weapons and missiles in Castro's Cuba. This is because America had done the same thing in Italy, in Turkey. They had deployed ballistic missiles which can destroy the whole of USSR. Therefore, stealthily, successfully, they also installed it near America. That was the time when China chose to attack India. Therefore, it's a dastardly attack by them, inhuman. Never expect anything which is palliative from them. They are there as our enemy, and we should know how to face the enemy. And the only way to face the enemy is to vanquish the enemy. Easier said than done. But now I am confident. When the policy maker, the defense secretary, and the general said, yes, we can win the war. Our soldiers can win the war. I think that is only from that platform of strength we can lead forward into peace. Yes, peace. We have to know how to wage peace, which is more difficult than waging war. Peace hath her victories, no less renowned than war. I think China should learn it. We should make them learn it the hard way. That is perhaps the humble message, which as an ordinary human being, I can make. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bose, for giving a strong message to China that they should learn how to live in the peace, because to live in the peace is very, very hard way. And you have also mentioned that our soldiers are ready to fight, and we are ready to modernize our equipments. And that is a very, very strong message, because if our army is ready, and if their willpower and their commitment, they are ready to sacrifice for this nation, then no country can even touch our country or the sovereignty of our country. Now, I would like to go to ask Mr. Mohan Kumar your suggestions to the government and the advice to the public, please.
See, we have had a lot of stress in the recent past, and then as a result, there is a great glow of patriotism in this country, and everybody is talking about various solutions. And now this is a time when now China has slowly understood India's resolve, and then they have started withdrawing. And I hope this withdrawal is permanent. But this time, we should always be very careful to think with our brains and not with our heart. That's very important, because taking out China has now become a necessary evil. I mean, it's a country. I mean, it has to exist, and it has 1.4 billion people. Now, in order to coexist with China, India has to be treated on a par with itself, and therefore we need to. There is absolutely no issue about alternative to economic growth and military strength. But China has to be, if it is a necessity, we need to rack our brains and invent creative solutions to deal with China. In a creative manner, so that it always results in some kind of a win-win situation and not win-lose situation which China wants us to do. So there could be cooperation in the future, but that should be done from a position of strength, and we cannot compromise with this strength. That's why I said I wanted to add a couple of points on the technological advance that we need to do, because currently India needs to improve its research and development in defense. I mean, because there's a lot of need for the private sector to come into the development area. The USA is a country where the DARPA system has made wonders. I mean, for the country, and India also should have a similar system of engaging the private sector also, because we have most of this research is done in public sector organizations, and it has its own business as usual approach, and we need to be on a mission mode, and a mission mode happens when there is a market. So private sector market can do wonders, because the private sector can really be innovative and they can support the research program very well. And so we need to launch, we need to actually rethink our entire defense research strategy. And that's something which is very, very essential and is indispensable. And we need to think more about for instance, anything that we do, we must benchmark about China, not benchmark like China. It should be much above China. And if we have the national resolve to benchmark about China and move ahead, I think we can achieve wonders. And we should not hesitate to do that. And we should be doing it. That's
okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohan Kumar, for giving your views and suggestion that we should revisit our defense policy, and we should try to introduce more technology we give to the private players, so that we can modernize our defense services by producing more defense equipments in India. Now, General Raj Gopal, if your net is working properly, your suggestion and your advice, suggestion to the government and advice to the public.
Thank you. I think Dr. Bose and Dr. Mohan Kumar have given wide-ranging, covering various aspects. Let me just give a couple of points which I feel are important. Firstly, to pressurize China to quickly withdraw from the positions they have occupied. This is a very important aspect, and our pressure, we should constantly review this. We should constantly review this if we are, progressing well. It cannot go on endlessly. the present pattern shows that it's a very long advantage. Those positions will dominant positions occupied. That's the first. Second, there are wide recommendations which have come. It should formulate into a plan for for China, which encompasses all the economy, and this has to be a long-term plan. And this immaterial. This has to be a separate plan. Quite not.
Sorry, General Rajgopal, your net is giving problem today. No problem. You have made your point, and we are thankful to you that you have given so much of your time today to join this thing. Now, I would like to take the last word from General Chaturvedi. General Chaturvedi, what are your suggestions to the government and advice to the public?
To the government, I'll say, keep the strength of the leadership and the strength of the army and diplomacy alive. We have to speak from the position of strength. Modernize your armed forces, give them the best of equipment, go for a very, very reliable partnerships. There is no harm in keeping aligning with people who matter. The time of non-aligned are now over. And we must learn to, though interest of the nation is always supreme. If it doesn't meet you, you can leave it at any one time. Thereafter, I'll say exploit the fault lines in case of China. Tibet, we must reopen this case. We may have accepted as an autonomous region or part of China, but there is a need now to review this policy about Tibet. Many other fault lines which are there. Economy is one. Boycott Chinese goods. It will take time. It is not going to be that today we decide and it can happen tomorrow. We are dependent on number of things, but slowly and slowly reduce our dependence on China and the spare parts, the goods of the China, improve our quality, make the products the best in the world. Will be asked for. Basically, the acceptance of India is much higher than anybody else in the world. We are good at pharmaceuticals, exploit that thing. We are good at textiles, exploit those things. We are good in technology, software. These are the things where we can think. Other manufacturing items, we can slowly in another 2 to 3 years build up, reduce our dependence on China. In another, set a target, 4 to 5 years, we'll just, the balance of trade must tilt in our favor. As far as the public is concerned, my only request to the all Indians is that believe in your armed forces, believe in your elected government. You have elected them, and thereafter there should be no doubt as far as the national security aspects are concerned. When national security is involved, we must be talking in just one word, that nation first, राष्ट्र प्रथम है. उसी के लिए हम सब में भी जज्बा होना चाहिए. Believe that your armed forces are capable of defending the nation. They will produce our